Okay, let's just start this deep dive with, the giant, cuddly, wrinkled elephant in the room.
Right.
If you are helping an older family member pick a dog, and you type easy, low-maintenance breed into a search engine, the pug it's just going to be everywhere.
It is the absolute classic recommendation. And on paper, you can see why. They're small, so you don't need a lot of space.
Right.
They're quiet. I mean, you hardly ever hear a pug with an aggressive bark. And critically, they look completely happy to just sit on your lap all day.
Which seems perfect. It suggests you don't need those long, strenuous walks that might be really tough for an older owner.
Exactly. It just checks all the boxes for that ideal low-strain pet.
That cute, smushed face just screams gentle, relaxed companion. But the source material we've been looking at, it tells a really different story. It suggests this whole perception isn't just a little misleading, it can be dangerously wrong.
And that's really our mission today. We need to move past that superficial charm. We're going to do an in-depth exploration of the sources to show why the pug, despite what it looks like, is often one of the most physically demanding breeds for someone who's looking for, genuine low-strain companionship.
The hidden costs are just so much higher than you'd think.
Far higher.
So how does a dog that's famous for being so easygoing become such a high-demand pet? I guess we have to start with the very reason for their reputation, which is their anatomy.
Exactly. The core myth is that this dog is, inherently lazy or peaceful by nature. But the sources are really clear. What looks like a chill personality is actually a dog that is structurally and physiologically limited.
So their relaxed vibe is more of a survival mechanism than a personality trait.
Precisely. They have to conserve every single ounce of energy because for them, physical exertion can immediately compromise their ability to breathe.
Wow.
And to really get the depth of this, we have to use the specific term the sources bring up. Brachycephalic obstructive airway syndrome, or BOAS.
Okay, that sounds super technical. If we just break it down simply, what does BOAS actually mean for a pug?
It basically means short-headed blockage airway problem. It's an umbrella term for a whole bunch of issues that come from having all the normal tissues of a dog's snout just compressed into a flat skull.
So you're talking about narrowed nostrils.
Narrowed nostrils, an overly long, soft palate that literally flops down into their throat, and often a windpipe that's just too narrow for their body.
So if you're looking at a pug, what you're seeing is an animal whose most basic function breathing is physically compromised by its own design.
It's a constant low-grade struggle. And what that means for an owner is vigilance. You're not just hearing loud snores at night. You're hearing the sound of a dog that is actively fighting to pull air into its lungs.
And the sources emphasize that this isn't just, a cute quirk. It requires a level of oversight you'd never expect from a so-called lap dog.
No. And I can imagine an older owner, maybe with some hearing loss, might just hear that loud, raspy breathing and think it's just a funny dog sound.
Yeah, a cute little snore.
But the sources describe it as just this constant effort for them to even exist. Imagine trying to breathe through a straw that someone keeps pinching shut. That's a pug's daily reality.
So they compensate by being still and quiet.
Which gets misinterpreted as being relaxed. And when they do move, they get exhausted incredibly fast, and then you see that heavy, desperate panting. The owner has to understand that's not laziness. It's the body's emergency signal saying, I have to stop now or my oxygen supply is going to fail.
That really changes the whole relationship, doesn't it? You're not just caring for a pet, you're constantly monitoring a chronic physical limitation.
Yes.
So if that's the baseline, just for them to exist, where does the real danger start?
The sources are very clear on this. The danger zone is temperature. The risk just skyrockets with heat. And this brings us to the real danger zone. It's not about panting being inconvenient. It's a life-threatening risk of sudden overheating.
And that's something that can be incredibly hard for an older person to manage quickly.
We worry about walking a dog in the rain, but for a pug, you have to worry about the basic climate control inside your own house.
Right.
Pugs just cannot cool themselves down efficiently. They rely on panting, but because their airways are already so compromised by BOAS, their panting is. It's just not effective. They can't move enough air fast enough to lower their body temperature.
So they overheat much faster, and once they start, it's harder for them to recover. It's like a spiral.
A very rapid spiral. The heat makes them pant harder. The harder panting causes the already swollen tissues in their throat to swell up even more from inflammation,
Oh, wow.
which blocks the airway even further, making it even harder to breathe, which makes them overheat even faster.
That sounds absolutely terrifying and like an emergency that happens in seconds, not minutes.
And that's where the connection to the senior owner is so critical.
Hmm.
Speed and reaction time are everything. When a pug goes into a heat crisis, you might have only minutes to do something.
A younger owner might see the signs, grab the dog, run into a cool bath, get ice packs.
Instantly. But for an older adult, someone maybe with limited mobility or who uses a walker, that kind of rapid physical response is, well, it can be close to impossible.
The sources really flag that gap in physical capacity, don't they? Reacting in a crisis, lifting a panicked, heavy little dog, moving quickly. That's a huge physical demand.
A huge demand that directly conflicts with the reason they likely got the dog in the first place, for a low-strain life.
And it's not just a daytime risk, right?
Yeah.
The sources talked about a specific nighttime danger.
They did, and this is maybe the most stressful part, because it happens when everyone should be resting. Even in a perfectly cool, air-conditioned room, a pug's airway can partially collapse when they're asleep.
Because their muscles relax, and those soft tissues just block the passage completely.
Exactly. They jolt awake, sometimes choking, gasping for air. It's intensely frightening for them. And for the owner, a night's sleep turns into a shift of constant alertness. You're always listening.
So if the whole point of getting the dog was to feel less lonely and less stressed, you suddenly replace loneliness with the stress of medical vigilance.
Medical vigilance. That's it. You're basically managing a breathing machine, not just snuggling a companion. It's a 24-hour job.
Okay, so let's shift gears from that acute crisis of breathing to the chronic daily discipline needed to just keep things from getting worse. This brings us to that illusion that small dogs are automatically easy dogs, especially with weight.
Ah, the small dog equals easy dog myth. It's so pervasive. Pugs are small, yes, but they gain weight with astonishing ease. And that weight gain acts as a catastrophic multiplier on their existing breathing problems.
How catastrophic are we talking? I mean, does a single pound really make that much of a difference?
A pound on a 20-pound dog is 5% of its body weight. That extra weight builds up everywhere, including internally around the chest and neck. It puts physical pressure on their airways, making those narrow passages even narrower.
So if they're already breathing through a pinched straw, gaining weight is like someone squeezing that straw even tighter.
Precisely. And the consequences are immediate. The weight makes breathing harder, which, naturally makes them less willing to move or play.
And less movement means they burn fewer calories.
Leading to more weight gain, which makes breathing even harder. It's a terrible, self-perpetuating negative feedback loop, and it is incredibly hard to break.
And this is where the demand shifts right back to the owner.
Completely. Breaking that cycle requires constant, almost militant discipline with their diet. It's not just scooping food in a bowl. It's weighing meals, denying treats, and making them move even when they don't want to because it's uncomfortable for them.
For an older adult, that kind of strict routine can be a challenge, especially if there are memory issues or, just feeling guilty denying your little companion a treat.
Absolutely. And you also have to manage everyone else. Family, visitors, caregivers who might slip the dog a little something thinking, oh, what's the harm? But with a pug, that tiny piece contributes directly to a health problem.
So the physical demand isn't a long walk. It's the exhausting daily mental energy of managing their food versus their very low energy output.
It is constant management, and it completely contradicts that low-strain expectation.
Okay, so let's just list out some of the other specific daily chores that really move the pug into that high-demand category. The things that prove they are absolutely not set and forget dogs.
Right, the practical stuff. First, the environment. We mentioned heat. That means reliable, consistent air conditioning in warm climates isn't a luxury. It's a piece of medical equipment for the dog.
So the owner has to be able to afford the energy bills, the upkeep, and know that if the AC breaks, it's an immediate emergency.
It's a huge logistical and financial burden. Then there's grooming. We all see those cute wrinkles, but what's the daily reality of that?
Yeah, what's the demand there?
Those skin folds, especially the big one over the nose, are deep traps for moisture, for food, for bacteria. If you don't clean them daily and dry them thoroughly, they get nasty infections and dermatitis very quickly.
And for someone with, say, arthritic hands or limited dexterity, meticulously cleaning those deep, tight skin folds is a really difficult chore. a daily commitment.
It's intensive maintenance, plus the owner needs a daily awareness of the temperature and even the humidity inside the house. You can't just open a window for a nice breeze if it's humid out. That's an instant breathing risk.
And finally, because of all these issues, the breathing, the skin, the weight pugs just end up at the vet more often.
Far more often. They need frequent and often expensive vet checks for their breathing, for their skin. A senior expecting a quiet retirement might suddenly find their calendar is just full of vet appointments.
When you add all that up, the AC, the portion control, the daily wrinkle cleaning, the vet visits, it paints a picture of really intensive responsibility.
It's less like having a dog and more like managing a chronic medical condition, a very sweet, furry one, but a condition nonetheless.
Which brings us right back to the core finding from our deep dive. This huge expectation mismatch.
And we have to be clear, pugs are wonderful creatures. The sources all praise how affectionate they are, how loyal, how deeply bonded they get with their people.
They give incredible emotional support. They are sweet, loving dogs that just want to be near you.
The problem isn't the dog's temperament. The problem is the physical reality that comes with it. What most seniors want from a dog is companionship, a predictable routine, and low physical and mental strain.
And what the pug, just by its design, often demands is the exact opposite. It's high physical and mental investment from the owner to manage these daily and sometimes acute health problems.
And when that gap between expectation and reality is too big, it just leads to stress for the owner and, crucially, poor health for the dog.
So the real takeaway here is recognizing that the perceived calm of a pug is masking some really significant and potentially urgent management requirements.
You can't just ask if the dog is cute. You have to be brutally realistic about the owner's capacity to handle a crisis, not just to cuddle.
And this is the single most critical question that we pulled from all the materials. It's the one that should guide the final decision. You have to ask yourself and your family member this.
If this dog suddenly struggles to breathe in the middle of the night, or if it overheats on a warm afternoon, are we physically and mentally equipped to handle that emergency calmly and consistently?
That potential for an immediate life or death crisis?
Yeah.
That's the real hurdle. And if the answer to that question is, I don't know, or a clear no, then the pug, for all its love and charm, may be far more demanding than anyone ever expects. And that's the crucial point to take away from this.